This is not a casual question. It's the kind of question that decides whether you end up early in a genuinely disruptive crypto project or years later wondering how you once believed a story that sounded too perfect. Every bull cycle produces projects that promise to fix blockchain forever, and every cycle also wipes out investors who confuse powerful marketing with real innovation. BlockDAG sits right at this crossroads. On one side, it claims a technological leap by combining DAG architecture with proof-of-work security. On the other, it uses aggressive presales, viral mining apps, and branding-heavy narratives that naturally raise skepticism. So instead of reacting emotionally, let's do what most people never do in crypto. Slow down, verify claims, compare history, and judge BlockDAG not by how exciting it sounds, but by how it behaves when stripped of hype. To understand whether BlockDAG is legit or just clever marketing, we first need clarity on what it actually claims to be. BlockDAG markets itself as a next-generation Layer 1 network built on a directed acyclic graph rather than a traditional linear blockchain. In simple terms, instead of blocks being added one after another in a single chain, multiple blocks can be created and confirmed in parallel. This theoretically allows higher throughput, faster confirmations, and better scalability. On paper, this sounds revolutionary, but here's the reality check most investors ignore. DAG-based systems are not new. Projects like IOTA, Nano, Phantom, Early Architecture, and Hedera have experimented with similar concepts for years. Some succeeded partially, some failed entirely, and many had to compromise decentralization or security to function. So BlockDAG's idea isn't new. What matters is whether it has solved the hard problems others couldn't. Those hard problems revolve around consensus ordering and security. In traditional blockchains like Bitcoin, security comes from linear ordering and massive hash power competition. DAG systems complicate this because when blocks are produced in parallel, the network must still agree on which transactions are valid, which come first, and how conflicts are resolved. This is where many DAG projects either introduced central coordinators or relied on trusted nodes, solutions that quietly undermine decentralization. BlockDAG claims to preserve proof-of-work security while benefiting from DAG scalability, which is an ambitious claim. Ambitious doesn't mean impossible, but it does mean the burden of proof is extremely high. Real legitimacy requires open technical documentation, transparent assumptions, and verifiable implementation, not just diagrams and performance claims. When we examine BlockDAG's technical material, we see a mix of genuine architectural explanations and strong marketing language. This combination isn't automatically bad, but it demands careful interpretation. Legitimate engineering projects usually talk openly about trade-offs, bottlenecks, and unresolved challenges. Marketing-driven projects tend to focus on ideal outcomes and future potential. The key question is this: does BlockDAG show evidence of real-world testing, adversarial stress scenarios, and iterative improvement? Or does it mainly sell a finished vision that conveniently avoids discussing weaknesses? Investors who skip this distinction often mistake ambition for execution. Now let's address the most controversial part of BlockDAG's ecosystem, the mining narrative. BlockDAG heavily promotes mobile mining through its X1 app, positioning it as a way for everyday users to participate in the network and earn BDAG tokens. This is where experienced crypto users immediately become cautious, and rightly so. Real proof-of-work mining is computationally expensive by design. It consumes energy, requires specialized hardware, and secures the network through economic cost. No smartphone can realistically contribute meaningful hash power to a global POW network without either damaging the device or centralizing computation elsewhere. So what's actually happening here? The truth is more nuanced than real mining or fake mining. The X1 app appears to function as a participation and reward mechanism rather than traditional mining. Users earn tokens through engagement, time-based actions, or simulated contribution rather than raw computational work. This does not automatically make BlockDAG a scam, but it does mean the term mining is being used loosely, and that matters. Why? Because security models depend on honest hash power distribution, not app downloads. If users believe they are securing the network when they are not, expectations become misaligned. The real test of legitimacy will be whether BlockDAG transitions to a true decentralized mining ecosystem with independent miners running nodes, or whether the app remains the primary distribution mechanism. Without that transition, the security narrative weakens significantly. Tokenomics is the next critical layer, and this is where many promising projects quietly fail. BlockDAG's presale has attracted massive attention by emphasizing low entry prices, early access, and high upside potential. Presales themselves are not inherently bad. They can fund development and bootstrap communities. However, they also create powerful incentives for early participants to sell once liquidity events occur. If vesting schedules are short, unlocks are large, or emissions are aggressive, price pressure becomes inevitable regardless of how good the technology is. Legitimate projects design tokenomics to survive human behavior, not assume ideal long-term holding. Investors must therefore ask, are BlockDAG's token unlocks aligned with real development milestones, network usage, and decentralization, or are they aligned with marketing phases? Closely tied to tokenomics is team transparency. Technology does not build itself. People do. Anonymous teams are not automatically scams, but in modern crypto, transparency dramatically reduces risk. When evaluating BlockDAG's legitimacy, it's essential to examine the team's background, experience, and execution history. Are there verifiable engineers with experience in distributed systems, cryptography, or large-scale infrastructure? Or is the team primarily focused on partnerships, promotions, and community growth? Marketing is important, but it cannot substitute for engineering competence. Many past failures had incredible branding and zero long-term technical resilience. This brings us to partnerships and branding, another psychological lever used heavily in crypto. BlockDAG has promoted associations with sports teams and public-facing brands, which creates instant credibility in the minds of many investors. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Partnerships do not equal adoption. A logo on a website does not mean a blockchain is being used for settlement, smart contracts, or data integrity. History is full of projects that spent millions on sponsorships while their networks remained unused. The only partnerships that truly matter are those that involve actual on-chain activity, technical integration, and dependency on the protocol. Anything else is marketing until proven otherwise. So who is actually using BlockDAG today? Not in future roadmaps, not in vision decks, but right now. This question is critical because blockchains are inherently expensive systems. They only make sense when trust minimization is required. If BlockDAG's primary value proposition is speed and low cost, it enters an extremely competitive space, already dominated by Ethereum Layer 2s, Solana, and other high-throughput chains. Many of those competitors already have mature ecosystems, developers, and users. For BlockDAG to survive long-term, it must offer something structurally different, not just incrementally better. That brings us back to DAG architecture and whether it offers that structural difference. DAGs can theoretically allow parallel block creation and reduce bottlenecks, but theory alone does not guarantee security. Real networks face spam attacks, selfish mining, network splits, and governance conflicts. Legitimate projects demonstrate how they handle these scenarios transparently. If BlockDAG can show real-world resilience under stress, it strengthens its case dramatically. If not, skepticism remains justified. However, dismissing BlockDAG outright would also be intellectually lazy. Some of its ideas align with long-term trends in crypto: modular scalability, hybrid consensus, and user-friendly onboarding. The X1 app, while controversial, lowers the psychological barrier to entry, which has historically limited crypto adoption. Many successful technologies started with imperfect models that later evolved into more robust systems. The question is not whether BlockDAG is perfect today, but whether it is evolving towards something defensible tomorrow. And this is where investor psychology becomes the biggest risk. Projects like BlockDAG thrive in uncertainty, where the upside feels enormous, and the downside feels distant. This is exactly where retail investors abandon discipline, convincing themselves that small investments don't require deep research. In reality, the opposite is true. The smaller and earlier the project, the higher the due diligence requirement. Asymmetric upside exists only because asymmetric risk exists. So is BlockDAG legit or clever marketing? The most honest answer is this: BlockDAG is not an obvious scam, but it is not yet proven enough to justify blind conviction. It sits in the speculative middle ground where success is possible but far from guaranteed. The difference between those who benefit and those who become exit liquidity will not be belief. It will be patience, scrutiny, and the ability to separate execution from storytelling. Legitimate projects reveal themselves over time. They continue building after hype fades. They respond to criticism with evidence, not censorship. They miss deadlines but ship real code. They prioritize decentralization even when it slows growth. If BlockDAG follows this path, it may well earn its place as a next generation protocol. If it doesn't, it will become another lesson in how powerful narratives can overshadow unfinished systems. In crypto, narratives move markets in the short term, but systems decide survival in the long term. BlockDAG's final verdict has not been written yet, and that uncertainty is exactly why it fascinates so many people. The smartest position right now is not certainty, but informed patience, because whether BlockDAG becomes a breakthrough or a cautionary tale, watching how it evolves will teach you something far more valuable than any presale prophet ever could: the difference between believing a story and understanding a system.